Welcome to Tanya Today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from my grandchildren's home, my son's home, down south. And it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you so we don't miss our learning together. So, Eugenia from Calgary, welcome. Good afternoon. Ellen is with us in Tampa. Shalom, Ellen. And Marcel in the Philippines. Shavua Tov. Davida, Liba, welcome. From New York, Akutvach. And Lake St. Louis, St. Louis, in Missouri. Ephraim is with us. Mark, shalom to you. And Daniel, welcome. Gary's with us in Pennsylvania, shalom. Pamela in Oakton, Virginia, welcome. Sandy in Michigan, welcome. Good afternoon in the Philippines, Marcel. Who else is joining us today? Tim in Texas. Joe in Washington, shalom. Who else? Deborah in Florida is with us. Isha, welcome. Fran in Las Vegas, hello. Clive is with us in South Africa. Beautiful. We have in Clubhouse, Vilma is with us. Shmuel, Tim, Eliana, Noah, Zana. Welcome, folks. We have also with us Okoy in Peru, Valerie, Stefan, Yenta Telebenta. Okay. Thank God we were able to figure this out, how to do this. Okay, we are in the 28th letter. This letter, like the previous letter, the Alter Rebbe is writing it as a condolence, what's called Nichum Avelim, to give condolences to the mourners. And who he sent this letter to was none other than the famed Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Barditchev. Well, actually, they had grandchildren that married each other. So they kind of had a connection. And this letter is because his son, Reb Meir, passed away. And he wants to bring him condolence. He wants to bring him some comfort in his son, a righteous individual. And that's the content of this letter. So the Alter Rebbe begins by asking the question, Miriam, who is the older sister of Moshe Rabbeinu, of Moses, I'm sure we all know, she was by the bulrushes when he was put into the basket. I'm sure we're all familiar with that. Right? Get a better angle here. And the Torah juxtaposes her passing with the law of the red heifer. The law of the red heifer is it's someone who comes in contact with death, a corpse, needs to be purified from that spiritual impurity through the red heifer that brings them spiritual purity, again, from coming in contact with the corpse. So everything in Torah is very precise. And the very fact that the Torah decides to put the passing of Miriam, a righteous woman, right? Actually, in the previous letter, we were asking about women and their righteousness. Well, indeed, a righteous woman. And it's juxtaposed to the law of the red heifer. So the Talmud says, our sages in the Talmud say, the reason for that is to teach us something. Just as the red heifer brings cleansing, atonement for being spiritually impure. When you come in contact with a corpse, you go through the red heifer, it brings atonement. So likewise, the passing of the righteous, and in this instance, of course, the juxtaposition is to Miriam, the righteous woman, brings atonement to the generation that is left behind. Powerful statement, a very powerful statement, that the righteous bring atonement to those people that are left behind. In the previous letter, we spoke about how the righteous still engage with the people left behind, giving them faith, awe, and love of God, protecting them from above, and then other things that we spoke about. Here, it's about their passing actually brings an atonement to the entire generation. By the way, well, remind me to get there, okay? So the Alter Rebbe asks on this, if the whole idea of a righteous person brings atonement for the generation that is left behind for their passing, brings a cleansing because of the holy person that passed away, the righteous that passed away, then why wouldn't it be juxtaposed to the law of the sin offering? The sin offering is actually done on the altar in the holy temple, as opposed to the red heifer. Is actually, the process is done outside of the holy temple, and it's only considered, it's sort of given a quality of a chatos, of a sin offering, but really it's not. It's not so much, it's more about the cleansing, not so much of the atonement. So if we want to bring out the idea that the righteous in their passing, this is what they accomplish, wouldn't that accomplishment be more precise, that it should be juxtaposed, not the red heifer, that is, the process is done outside of the temple. It should be to the offering on the altar that's done inside the temple, which is then, in that sense, a holier process. Good question. So, Alter Rebbe says that there's a mystical principle about offerings that, what is this idea of bringing an offering on the altar? It's really about the person bringing something on the altar that is an arousal from below, which is metaphorically feminine waters that reach above and bring down a new light. Why an animal? Because we have the animal in us that brings us to do wrong things. The godly in us doesn't bring us to do wrong things, but the animal in us does. So that animal is now on the altar. That's an arousal from us, from within, to bring to go to the spiritual realm of where the animal comes from, which is called the celestial throne, the chariot, and from there draws down divinity from Ezekiel's chariot, the man upon the throne, which is in reference to the male counterpart above, which is the 6 divine attributes, emotive attributes of chesed, kindness, through Yesod. And it brings it down, it brings a level down here of purification, of atonement. Right? That's the process. In other words, it's the idea of you offering your animal nature within you that led you to do the wrong upon the altar, that now elicits from on high the quality of the divine, that now brings that light into the world and brings an atonement for the individual. An integrated one that's within the person. Because just like the offering is of an animal that is food, that can be eaten, and is eaten actually by the Kohanim, the priests, they eat it because in the act of that eating, that integrates and becomes the flesh and blood, that flesh and blood now brings or creates that atonement. And that's why, the offerings on the altar, God says that it is a reich nichayach, it is a great flavor or a great smell and flavor, because it's like food that is ingested, metaphorically, of course, and brings new life, just as food brings new life. The red heifer, that's an offering on the altar. The red heifer, on the other hand, is the red heifer that's burned, cedar wood that's added with a hyssop, using running water in ashes. And it's called a sanctification mechatos, kiddush mechatos. It means it's a purifying waters that brings a sanctification. It is called like tal de bulcha. It's like dew, as opposed to rain. Rain, how does rain work? Well, rain is a metaphor for the offering on the altar. Rain, a vapor has to go up, two vapors of drops going up to a drop coming down, right? That's a reciprocal. Rain is about a reciprocal connection from below to above. It's not coming automatically from above. It's a reciprocal, right? The vapor has to go up in order that the rain will come down. And that is what we just spoke about, the offering on the altar. There's about you offering of you, that's your animal soul that is now in the physical animal on the altar of God. That's coming from down in order that now there will become something from above. That's rain. But the red heifer is not the concept of rain, but dew that is spontaneous from above. It's an arousal from above that transcends. In other words, whatever we do down here cannot reach to the level up there. It's far greater. If you want the Kabbalistic terminology, it's called Supreme Chokhmah of Meichas Tima Ve'erech Anpin. The crown, the Chokhmah that's in the crown. Usually when we speak about Chokhmah, intelligence, it's in the head, in the brain. But there's an aspect of where that brain comes from that transcends the brain itself, and that's called Keser, the crown above it, that transcends it. And there's an aspect of the hiddenness of Chokhmah there. And that's something we can't reach. As it's not our efforts that do that. And therefore, the red heifer has something unique that it accomplishes. It can take darkness and transform it into light. That's what it can do. What's that darkness? What's the darkness? Death. You come in contact with death. That's the complete opposite of life, obviously, right? And therefore it needs to be transformed. This is something that transcends even what the offering on the altar can accomplish. So the sanctifying of the purifying waters that is drawn down from the supreme Chokhmah transcends the world and transforms the ultimate of this world. The ultimate finality of this world is death. And it transforms it. You come in contact with death. Not that you died, right? But you come in contact with death, and now that's being able to be transformed into purity. That's what the red heifer does. Different than the offering on the altar.